Welcome to Downtime with Donnie. Your host, Nathan Downs, chats with Donnie Lockhart, a 35-plus year veteran of the fence industry. We get his feedback and opinions on fencing, construction, and everything in between. Let's join Donnie and Nathan now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Downtime with Donnie. I'm your host, Nathan Downs. We've got Mr. Donnie Lockhart in the studio. Donnie?
How's everybody doing? Hopefully I sound okay. I'm a little recovering from COVID, I think.
Me too. I'm recovering from screaming because I just went this past weekend with Lucas to the Dallas Cowboys Detroit Lions game. As most of you know, I'm a Michigan guy, so my Lions got screwed. Nonetheless, we're here working. This is going to be a fly-by episode today, Donnie, because we are actually kind of a little busy. We got stuff going on. We're trying to get some stuff done. So with that being said, we had something that we wanted to share with everyone because in being busy, right, Donnie, one of the problems that often is coming along is we get a lot of the oddball jobs, right? We're requested to do things that are outside of the normal.
Oh, I think a lot of it is because we have done these that we're getting these calls also.
Yeah. So with that being said, we wanted to talk real quick about when to take a job and when not to take a job.
When to pass on mine.
Right.
You know, and I think for me, I mean, for most people in the business, so you know as well that we've talked about this many years over and over again, even before Radius even started. You're in the fence business. So should you not be taking a job anytime it has to do with fence, or should you be walking away from it whenever? And the scenario that we got here is the fact that we went out on a couple jobs. Of course, one of them not too bad, but the other one, we had a lawn guy that actually started the job and then has walked away from it. And the scenario was the homeowner's telling me that, well, he bought him an auger, he bought him, a nail gun and stuff like that. And now he's stuck with this mess, literally a mess.
A mess.
They really didn't know what they were doing. Now, do they have the basic? Well, I mean, you had a fence there to go off of to begin with. But this is going to be a round rail fence. It's one rail, so it makes it even easier. But I get out to the job site, and they basically have dug these huge holes that are 1.5 feet in diameter, just getting the concrete off of the post. And the customer is now wanting somebody else to do it because he's like, hey, I paid you this. I bought these things, and here's my job. I'm stuck with this crap. And so where do you make the decision on to walk away or bid? Of course, for us, it's going to be bid. I mean, we're going to bid it.
Right.
But it's going to be an outrageous price, which means we're probably not going to get it. And if we do, then it's going to be worth it. Keep it in mind that it's always a headache anytime you're cleaning up somebody else's mess. Every time we do it, it's an issue because now the customer's expecting more from the company than they were the lawn guy that started the job, basically.
And man, early last year, because jobs were a dime a dozen, right? I was always like, screw it, we're not doing it, or just tell someone something, just explain to the customer, it's really not in our wheelhouse. It's not what we do. Find a reason that makes sense, but it's sensible enough just because we can't make it profitable. And of course we're a business, so we have to be profitable in what we do. But that was the thing that I see. I spoke with someone that has a large 8-figure fence company a year, up in the northern Midwest area. And, he's been doing fence for 50, 60 years. And he told me one of the ways that was really vital to his growth as a young company was the same thing that we've done, right? We're like, it's not what we do, but we have the know-how and the capability to do it.
To make it right.
Right. And he told me, you need to price every one of those jobs, which I was like, I don't want to. But, he's like...
Because it is going to be a headache. I can assure you it'll be a headache.
But he always said he never felt bad about it. And I think that's the thing that you and I have talked about, Donnie, that's hard to internalize that, right? Like, because I'm the same way. I look at this job, I'm watching the video. Donnie took video of it on company cam, and we're sitting here looking through it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a freaking nightmare. Like it's going to take, the guy's got 27 bags of concrete. Well, with the holes the way they are, we're going to need about another 100 bags of concrete. I mean, it's
a lot.
A lot. It is a disaster zone.
Piles of dirt that are, 3-4 foot from the fence line, stuff like that. You're going to have to clean up, and concrete here and there. It's one of those things that most fence companies will not accept because they're just like, it's not worth it.
Right.
But once again, my theory on that is who does it?
I know, right? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he screwed up and had a lawn guy come out and start it, his lawn guy, but now he's needing it done. And who are you supposed to call? He should have called the fence company to begin with, right? Because it would have been cheaper on him.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Now it's going to cost him.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Because you're having another fence company come in and do it. Normally most companies here walk away from these kind of jobs. It's like, no, you should have never called. You should have never had your lawn guy. You need to call your lawn guy.
Right.
And that's exactly what most of these companies will do.
But we've seen that even happen on jobs that we've gone behind. Even last year, we had a gate job. Randy just had to put on some safety edges because the contractor had decided they didn't want to do the safety edges. They wanted to do some additional photo eyes. The design of the entire gate system didn't work with the way they had it set up.
Right.
Was it correct to UL 325? And it actually was. It was right. But in the grand scheme of things, how it worked didn't actually allow the daggum thing to work correctly, if that makes sense. So I had told them, hey, the contractor that put this in that we're working behind has these parts. And they go, no, they don't. And I said, no, they came with the operator.
Right.
They have the parts. So I even reached out to that competitor and was like, hey, give me the parts and stuff. And they're like, I don't have that. And so I turned around to the GC and told them, I go, they need to produce it. Like they need to go buy them at one of the distributors, bring them to me or take them to the job site. I'm like, it's part of their deal.
Right. And it's part of the package.
Right. And the general contractor was like, I don't want to mess with it. You just go buy new ones and charge me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what the freak? Because I'm just like, that's part of the problem too. Whether it's the end user, the client, the customer, the general contractor, whoever you all as a professional are working for, when these things happen, they're stuck holding the bag. But very often it's crazy that people won't hold the contractor accountable for the original work. Like, I don't get that.
So I do. I mean, in some degree, you got to think about the fact that the headache that they've already probably put up with trying to get it done or get them to be held liable for it.
Right.
And they're just finally going, man, I should have never done it this way. I should have just hired the right people.
Right.
And so now it's going to cost me more. And they're willing to do that because it means they don't have to deal with it anymore. Let's get the people in here that know what they're doing and get it done. Because I'm sick of dealing with it, or I'm sick of not having what I'm paying for.
But it's like a consumer, like people listening to this that are customers or potential customers out there. You need to do, like, we all have an onus to do more due diligence on these things. And the problem, Donnie, you just explained it perfectly. The real problem there is we have people in the market that think that they can shortchange these things.
Right.
Right? Like, just like this gentleman. I'm going to buy you an auger. I'm going to get all this stuff. I'm going to have Lowe's or Home Depot drop all the materials out here, all of which was done.
Right.
Right? But look where we're at. Now who's holding the bag? The homeowner.
Right.
So was it worth saving $1,000 when this is going to cost him astronomically more? And as you know,
or it was the other way around, and his lawn guy realized, hey man, this is not worth what I bid this for, and now he's basically just letting the job go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of work that they did. It was all overkill on what they had to do, is just because they've never done it before. But because you know as well as I do, no fence guy would have walked out there and made those holes that big just to get concrete out.
No, heck,
wouldn't have happened. For one, they probably wouldn't have set back in the same hole to begin with,
right?
And just would have added another post into that. But that wasn't the scenario. You know, the customer bought all of it: the materials, the concrete. And he went and got the auger. He went and got a nail gun or staple gun, whatever it is that he had to have for that to redo the wire, which is not on at all yet.
Right.
And he's just saying, "Man, I'm done. He's not shown back up. I can't get him to come back out." And he's like, I need my fence put back in because he's got 3 neighbors around him that all have dogs too. And yet his fence is not up. Right. So once again, and he, I told you, he called me the very next day wanting his estimate right then. And I'm like, okay, you got to give me some time on here.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, that we've run into. I think we actually got a 1-star review last year. I think it might be the second 1-star review we ever got was a similar situation. A gentleman had a self-storage facility. He had already bought all his materials, and he and I kind of ping-ponged back and forth the first month in. Wasn't sure. He had like conduits and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, just pull my wires." And I'm like, "Dude, come on, man. Like, can you make sure that the conduits like aren't broke or actually?" I said, "Now I'll do this, but I got to send out guys before we can even give you an official bid and do it like as a service call, right? Where we fish tape everything. We make sure that it all could possibly work." And the guy's like, "Don't worry about it." And then again, like I said, communication's going back and forth. And then at the end of the day, we're looking at each other and he's like, "You never gave me a bid." And I'm like, "Did you ever do what you said you were going to do?" I don't know, but it was my fault as much. But like I said, get a 1-star review. It's like, man, I called somebody else that came over because they had time. And I know who it was that went. And I'm like, yeah, they weren't doing anything.
Right.
And unfortunately, and that's what he said, which I thought was appropriate. This is a good way to kind of wrap the conversation. But he said, if you were too busy to even do it in the first place, you should have just told me and I would have continued looking on. But to be fair, that is a valid point from him. But to be fair, why did you continue to keep coming back? If you know he hadn't, you see what I'm saying? Like,
well, and so that's, I can see that falling both ways though, because he should have been clear that he needed this done ASAP instead of, him being on your time schedule.
Right.
I mean, we're always, as a company, I don't care what company you call, there is a time that they're extremely busy. Well, if you're not asking me how far we're out, I'm just giving you a bid. And then when you call and say, "Hey, I want to schedule my job," then we give you a time, right? So, I mean, it's just as much his fault on it as it would be for us. And keep it in mind, just like the job we're talking about that I went out on, man, how would I guess what time we're going to have on that job?
No, yeah,
it's not.
It takes so much time. And that is the hard part, especially for everyone out there that's a smaller business like us, where there's only 2 or 3 of us that can even bid the job.
Right.
When do we find time? I'm like, dude, I'm trying to bid
and
the
people
normal.
that want to, that crews that are willing to go out and do this.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, how do we quantify that to make sure, or do you grab one of the crews and say, "Hey, let's go out there. We need to figure out a time on this." And then there's more time.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, do you add that to the estimate? Like, do you build that in here? You have to. I mean, otherwise we're investing all this time in these custom projects that aren't really custom. It's like a fixed
or our
project.
fault.
Right. And then you're going and you don't want to be stuck holding the bag at the end of the day.
And a lot of times you will. That's the bad thing about this whole scenario is a lot of times if you're not careful, you do end up holding the bag as a company because, the customers feel already been screwed and they're going, well, I just don't feel that your pricing is right or whatever. I'm not going to pay this, even though you did run into these problems that we couldn't foresee.
Right.
I can name off one that I can think of that possibly we could run into on this job, which is they cut the post too short.
Oh yeah.
And then when we said it, the customer's going to hold us liable for it as a warranty type deal. And I'm like, well,
and so in this scenario too, like this is another thing, just on this bid, one of the key tenets of all of our estimates that we do is that we warranty all of our work. But if you provide the materials, which we never take these jobs. So like I'm saying this as a caveat, like, if you buy a wood fence job, we're not putting it in for you.
Right.
Now this is a little bit different because it's round rail, but on the paperwork, it will say, and they will know 100%, like we are not warranting nothing out here. I mean, we're going to make sure that we walk it. So I have to add that into the price too, right? Like you or I have to go back, probably Donnie, but have to go back post project, walk it with the customer, make sure everything's done
and they're happy
to what the bid is. Exactly. And then understanding that we're never coming back.
Right.
because we can't. It's not our material. It's not. And as a consumer, for those of you out there that are consumers hearing this, you know, one of the reasons why too on the materials is we buy materials in bulk from different suppliers, all these things. So our price point's lower.
Right.
So if you notice the price that you pay is going to be similar to if you bought the materials on your own, that margin allows us to provide warranties, allows us to do things for free. I'm using air quotes.
Right.
Because there's a cost to the company.
Right.
Right. So if you provide all the materials, I have no control over anything. So how could I even provide a warranty? You really shouldn't. And it's hard when you're young, right? Like it's hard when you're a small company. It's hard when you're a young company because you want to be able to go out there and do everything you can.
And you should. I mean, as a fence company, so this is fence, right? And this is the one thing that we dealt with over and over the years is, for me, it's just a no-brainer. You're a fence company.
Right.
Yeah, they screwed up.
Right.
But somebody's got to fix this job. And you're in the business of that.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So how do you turn them away?
Yeah.
Right?
You got to be the professional.
So you have to just bid it right.
Bid it right, be the professional.
And hopefully they'll understand that, hey, yeah, you could have had this job built for about $3,500, $4,000. Now it's costing you about $5,000, $6,000 because I'm fixing your mistakes.
So are they reusing the chain link on that out there? Or is it reusing the old chain link?
It is.
That's what I thought.
And it's just standing out there right now where they've taken it loose. That's why I said there'll be a few posts that are probably have to be added.
Yeah.
Maybe a piece of chain link here and there. I mean, it's just hard to judge.
Well, what they should have done was pull all that chain link down and bought some brand new Ozark Wireworks chain link.
Yeah.
That would have been the way to go. Right
I think it was over the guy's head, and the chain link's a little bit in the ground because it's still standing there, and it's not hooked to nothing. It's just standing in the air.
Oh my gosh. I need to go back to this video and watch that.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for new chain link and don't want to have to reuse the old chain link, anytime you can go to www.ozarkwireworks.com. Hit up Joe Everest and his team out of Springfield, Missouri. They have all sorts of different beautiful chain link in stock, and they're running
quality chain link.
It's good chain link, good, especially that 8 gauge. You know, that's what even Randy was blabbing on about that the other day. You know, man, we're using commercial grade on everything, and I'm like, that's the same freaking price. Why not?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
I mean, it's a no brainer. So
it would be nice to get it a little bit lighter, though, for me, anyways, and for
like
Randy,
not so heavy.
Yeah.
Good
man,
Lord,
it's heavy.
It's so heavy. You know, we've got some of the 4-foot back there is actually fuse bonded, which is so that's a 9 gauge core, 8 gauge finish. Those rolls are
weighs as much as 9 gauge industrial chain link.
It's those
and harder to deal with because it's a bigger roll
to deal with. Oh, Joe,
but good stuff.
Why?
I mean, it looks
nice.
good.
Oh God, I mean that's as good as it's going to get for a chain.
I think the guys even said it installs easier too.
Yeah. So check that out. I actually think that has to do with how the bonding or the coating is and stuff like that. If I'm not mistaken.
And weight.
And that's
each
true.
Of the weaves, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's true.
To weave
not the light where you accidentally
where it just bends.
Yeah, you accidentally pull it the wrong way, and then the whole roll is kinked and stuff.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. So check that out. Good stuff. And then we got about a minute here, buddy. You want to leave anybody with any other thoughts on this one?
So once again, you shouldn't walk away from the job. I agree with the guy that we talked about before, right? I mean, we just need to bid it accordingly, and just know that we're going to have to baby it. Keep it in mind that we already know this guy's an attorney, by the way.
Oh, that's true too. So if you're listening to this is not indicative of any.
Yeah.
We'll put a disclaimer on this.
You know, kind of like the American Airlines versus the engineer versus. So anytime I can find out either one of those things, especially here in Tulsa, it's like, we're going to be at your job again over and over again until you get what you want. So
bid
guess what?
accordingly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one thing. One of the reasons that we share these stories, especially for you young guys and gals that listen to this, is because that is so true. Have we not learned that over the years? You know, I've only been on the contracting side for a decade now. And man, I see it all the freaking time. I'm like, wait a second. I didn't know I'd have to come here 97 times to hold your hand on why the pickets have fuzz. And I'm like, it's a rough cut Western red cedar picket.
Right.
What are we talking about? And they're like, oh, I thought it'd be smooth. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, what fence picket's
Go
smooth?
out and look.
Yeah. Like, did you buy S1, S2E? You know, and then again, okay, for all the young people out there listening, you got to educate yourself. So that way, when you get in these scenarios, you can properly explain it, right? And you understand it. So when you explain it to a customer, it's a very difficult conversation for someone to say
like
something.
Number one lumber, they're expecting number one lumber, and it's just not put up.
Right.
I mean,
and
you're not going to pay me for it, for one.
Exactly. But if you know what, we're doing one at one of the colleges down in Okmulgee right now, and we're getting ready to do it here in the next week or two. And it's a horizontal wood fence. Well, it was specified number 1 cedar. So the first bid I did was number 1 cedar, and the GC goes, yeah, that's way over budget. And I said, well, they wanted number 1 cedar, and he goes, what do you normally do? And I sent him a picture of how we do it every day. Number 2 or better, Western red. It's Altas. It's great quality wood. And he saw it and said, oh, that is fine. And I go, yeah, but I said, but what they wanted was they want that, and I was like, what do they want? And come to find out what they were expecting, which wasn't even the spec. They wanted clear. And I'm like, y'all, like
that
that's
ain't
not
gonna
even,
happen.
That's what I said. I was like, yeah, well then it's even more expensive than the number 1. And they freaked out. They're like, what the freak? And I go, well, you guys are designing this, the architect and the owner and stuff. And then we sent them pictures of ours, and they go, oh, that's beautiful. And I go, it's for what you need. It's perfectly fine. But we're not building like a $1 million outdoor living area or something. You see what I'm saying? Like,
and even then, it still wouldn't probably be cedar.
Well, right. Yeah. We'd start getting into all the mahoganies, walnuts, ipe.
You might as well be building inside the house. Why build a fence?
Sure. So always be looking at that. Always be checking out what your specs are. If you have an opportunity to bid a job, it does take more time. Set the expectations up front, right, Donnie?
Yeah, and don't let the customer set the expectations.
And just stick
because
to your
they
guns. Will. Absolutely. It's tough. It makes it tough, but we know we have faith in many of you. If you have questions on that too, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help in any way we can. If you do have a question on that, you can hit us up on social media at @radius_podcast or email us info@protectingyourradius.com or go on our website. We got a web form there, Donnie. They can just go right on there and do that as well if they have a question on something like that. But that'd be cool. I'd be interested to hear what other young companies do because, we try our best to handle it with as much care as we can, but it is hard. Oh,
it is. And it requires special handling sometimes.
Yep, for sure.
So, we do a lot of that. So here we were kind of used to it a little bit. Didn't do it as much as in the past, I don't think.
Right. We're special.
Or at least I didn't.
Special handlers. So
yeah.
All right, guys. We'll hit you on the next episode. Peace. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for taking a little downtime with Donnie and Nathan. The opinions and comments on this show are of the participants only and do not reflect that of its sponsors or partners. For more content and information about Radius, visit www.protectingyourradius.com. Give us a like, share this online, and look for us back real soon.
Holy moly, it is really hot. Hold on a second. Do I sound okay?
Yeah.
I sound all right? It sounds really loud on my
I probably won't sound right, but...
All right, let's try this again.